Galactic Council's grand chamber was filled with laughter. The leaders of the most powerful alien civilizations sat in their high-tech seats, watching a holographic display of a small, insignificant fleet approaching the edge of their controlled space. The fleet's origin? Earth. A minor planet that had just started expanding beyond its solar system. The Council had encountered thousands of young species before, all eager to claim their place in the galaxy, only to be crushed under the might of the ruling empires. Humans would be no different. Supreme Chancellor Korvax, a towering reptilian warlord, leaned forward, his scaled face twisting into an amused grin. They dare to enter our space? Do they not understand who we are? He waved a clawed hand, dismissing the humans as another primitive species, unaware of how the galaxy worked. Send a fleet. Teach them their place. The chamber erupted in agreement. They had destroyed countless civilizations before they could rise. Humanity would suffer the same fate. The battle fleet was dispatched 30 advanced warships, each equipped with weapons capable of turning planets to dust. The mission was simple: intercept the human fleet, warn them once, and if they refused to surrender, wipe them out. The alien commanders expected an easy victory, perhaps even entertainment. But as the fleet approached the human vessels, the first signs of something strange began to appear. The humans did not send a distress signal. They did not respond with fear, nor did they attempt to flee. Instead, they sent only 2 words in response to the warning: final warning. Confused, the alien fleet commander laughed. Final warning? From them? Pathetic. He gave the order to attack. The first volley of plasma cannons fired toward the human ships, and then? Nothing. The energy weapons were intercepted mid-air, as if swallowed by some invisible force. Before the aliens could understand what had happened, the human fleet retaliated. There was no build-up, no grand announcement, no hesitation. The humans struck first and without mercy. Their weapons were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Bright, almost invisible beams cut through the strongest warships, as if they were made of paper. Shields that had withstood supernova blasts crumbled in an instant. The alien fleet's formation collapsed in mere seconds. Panic spread through the ranks. Desperate, the commander tried to retreat. This is impossible. Humans don't have this kind of power, he screamed. His words were his last. A single, precise human strike hit the command ship, turning it into a fiery explosion that lit up the void of space. Within minutes, the entire alien fleet was annihilated. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, silence replaced the laughter. The entire room watched in horror as a live transmission from the battlefield showed the wreckage of their once mighty fleet. The humans had not lost a single ship. Supreme Chancellor Korvax felt a cold fear he had never known before. This cannot be real, he muttered, his voice shaking. Immediately, Council intelligence officers were ordered to dig deeper into human history. What they found was beyond terrifying. Humans had never been the strongest species on their planet, yet they had dominated it. They were fragile, yet they had conquered diseases, defied nature, and survived extinction-level events of their own making. While other civilizations had evolved with peace, humans had evolved through war. Their history was a long, unbroken chain of violence, adaptation, and victory. Every time they faced a superior enemy, they didn't just fight back, they became stronger. And then came the most horrifying discovery of all. Humans never attack first. They always give a warning. Only once. If their warning is ignored, they do not negotiate. They do not forgive. They end wars. The room was in chaos. Some alien leaders demanded immediate surrender. Others called for another fleet to be sent. But before any decision could be made, a new signal from the humans was received. It was not a message filled with demands, threats, or negotiation. It was only 2 words. War begins. And the Galactic Council finally understood. The first human attack was not an invasion. It was not a display of power. It was an execution. They had ignored the warning. Now, the real war was about to start. Panic spread like wildfire across the Galactic Council. The destruction of their battle fleet was impossible, yet it had happened. 30 warships gone. Not a single human vessel had been lost. The council chamber, once a place of arrogance and confidence, was now filled with fear. Supreme Chancellor Korvax, who had laughed at the idea of humans being a threat, sat frozen in his seat. His sharp claws tapped against the table, betraying his anxiety. The entire council had witnessed the battle through live transmission, and no one could deny the terrifying truth. Humans were not weak. They were not primitive. They were something else. Something far more dangerous than any species had ever encountered. The council wasted no time. Intelligence teams were assigned to gather every possible detail about humans. Within hours, reports started flooding in, each one more disturbing than the last. Humans were not like other species. Their homeworld, Earth, was a death trap. Unlike most civilizations that evolved on peaceful planets, humans had been shaped by a world that actively tried to kill them. From violent storms to deadly predators, from plagues to constant wars, everything on Earth had forced humans to become stronger, smarter, and more ruthless. Every other species had evolved by adapting to their environment. Humans had evolved by dominating theirs. Wars on other planets were rare. Small conflicts settled through diplomacy. But humans? Their history was a never-ending series of wars, battles, and bloodshed. They fought over land, resources, beliefs. They fought simply because they refused to lose. When they were outnumbered, they fought harder. When they were weaker, they became stronger. And unlike other species, they did not just destroy their enemies, they studied them, stole their strategies, and became even more efficient killers. One report sent shockwaves through the council. Humans do not fear death the way we do. They fight even when survival is impossible. They sacrifice themselves if it means victory. The more they learned, the worse it became. Humanity was not the most advanced species. They were not the fastest, strongest, or smartest. But they were the most relentless. They never stopped. They never surrendered. A scientist from the Nari species, known for their superior intelligence, gave a chilling conclusion: humans are unique. Most species avoid war because they fear destruction. Humans do not avoid war. They perfect it. The realization sent waves of horror through the council. The mistake had already been made. They had attacked humanity first. They had ignored the warning. Now, the war had begun, and the humans would not stop until they had won. Desperate, the council tried to calculate their chances. They gathered the might of every powerful empire, bringing together fleets that could darken the skies of entire planets. But deep inside, they already knew the truth. The most dangerous species in the galaxy had just been given a reason to fight. And there was nothing they could do to stop them. The Galactic Council had always ruled with absolute authority. Every species that had risen beyond its homeworld was met with the same fate: submission or destruction. Empires far older than humanity had crumbled before the might of the Council's war fleets. They had believed the same fate awaited Earth. They had believed humans were weak, insignificant, just another species that needed to be put in their place. But now, the council chamber was silent, filled with dread. They had watched the impossible unfold. The human fleet had annihilated their warships. The might of the galaxy's greatest armada had been reduced to burning debris, floating lifeless in space. And then came the message. A final transmission from the human fleet sent across every communication channel in the known galaxy. 2 words, simple yet terrifying. War begins. Panic erupted across the council as leaders of 100 alien species shouted over one another, their voices trembling. Some demanded peace negotiations, others insisted on sending an even larger fleet, and a few, those wise enough to understand the true horror of their mistake, remained silent. Supreme Chancellor Korvax, once arrogant, now felt cold fear settle into his bones. He had seen war before. He had ordered planetary exterminations. But never had he witnessed anything like this. Humans had given them a warning. The warning had been ignored. Now, there was no stopping what was coming. Within hours, a desperate plan was formed. Every military force in the galaxy was summoned. Thousands of warships, millions of soldiers, the best strategists and war machines ever created all mobilized to stop the human threat before it spread any further. They would meet the humans in open battle. The Council believed in numbers, in strength, in technology that had ruled for centuries. But there was one thing they still failed to understand. Humans did not fight like other species. The battle took place near the Nethos system, a strategic sector where the Council had prepared its defenses. Every approach had been fortified, every weapon was charged and waiting. The combined fleet stretched across space like an unbreakable wall. The commanders felt confident. Humans were strong, yes, but they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. This would be the end of their defiance. Then the human fleet arrived. There was no hesitation, no diplomacy, no final message. Humans did not waste time. The moment they entered the system, they attacked with terrifying precision. They did not fight for territory. They fought for extermination. Council warships that had survived countless battles found themselves torn apart in seconds. Their shields meant nothing. Their advanced weapons were useless. Every countermeasure had been calculated and rendered ineffective. Within the first hour, the battle was already lost. Human warships moved in perfect coordination, adapting instantly to every strategy the Council tried. The enemy wasn't just powerful, they were unstoppable. Command centers were bombarded before they could issue orders. Capital ships exploded before they could fire. The battlefield was chaos, but the humans were calm. They were precise, efficient, merciless. A terrified voice echoed across the Council's secured frequency. It belonged to Admiral Exultor, one of the greatest tacticians the galaxy had ever known. His voice, once full of pride, was now shaking. They are not fighting a war. They are executing us. Then the transmission ended. His flagship was gone. B. By the time the remaining Council ships tried to retreat, it was already too late. The human fleet did not allow survivors. They had given their warning. It had been ignored. And now the consequences were absolute. Back in the Council chamber, no one spoke. The battle reports displayed only one reality humanity had won. The strongest fleet ever assembled had been destroyed in a single day. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy were helpless before them. And as the Council sat in silent horror, another message was received. Not a warning. Not a demand. A statement. This is no longer your galaxy. It belongs to humanity now. And for the first time in history, the rulers of the galaxy understood what it felt like to be afraid. The war was not just lost. Their entire civilization was finished. The war should have ended before it even began. The Galactic Council had ruled for thousands of years, crushing every uprising, every rebellion, every species foolish enough to resist. They had done the same to humanity, or at least they had tried. What had started as a warning to an insignificant species had turned into the greatest mistake in galactic history. The Council had underestimated humans, believing them to be weak. They had thought their war fleets were invincible. Now, those fleets were nothing but wreckage floating in the void. The battle over Nithos Prime had lasted less than 3 hours. 3 hours, and the largest armada ever assembled was reduced to dust. No survivors. No distress signals. Only silence. The few who managed to flee carried with them a single, terrifying truth. Humans did not fight wars. They ended them. Unlike other species, they did not take prisoners. They did not offer surrender. They did not waste time with negotiations once the battle had begun. When humans went to war, they ensured there would be no enemy left to fight back. In the Council's grand chamber, a heavy silence hung in the air. The leaders of the most powerful civilizations sat frozen, their eyes fixed on the last transmission from the battlefield. It was not a request for peace. It was not a threat. It was a statement. No mercy. No survivors. Panic erupted. Some demanded immediate surrender, others called for another fleet to be assembled. But what fleet? There was nothing left. Every warship, every stronghold, Every secret weapon the Council had relied upon for centuries had been destroyed with terrifying precision. Supreme Chancellor Korvax, the most feared leader in the galaxy, felt something he had never felt before: true fear. For centuries, the Council had believed that war was a game of power and politics. Battles were fought with strategies, alliances, and negotiations. But humanity did not play by those rules. They fought with one purpose: total annihilation. Unlike other species, humans did not fear war. They had lived with it for their entire history. They had perfected it. A desperate plan was formed. The Council sent a final message to Earth, begging for negotiations. There was no reply. Instead, the humans launched their next attack. This time, they were not stopping at the fleets. They were coming for the homeworlds. The first planet to fall was HFY 9. It had been one of the strongest fortresses in the galaxy, surrounded by energy shields and orbital defenses. None of it mattered. The human fleet arrived, and within an hour, the planet was burning. Cities were erased in moments. The entire population gone. There were no rescue operations, no chance for evacuation. The humans had made their decision. The war was over, and the Galactic Council would not survive. One by one, the Council's core worlds fell. No warnings. No mercy. No survivors. What had once been the center of galactic power was now a graveyard of destroyed planets. The Council's leaders scattered, trying to escape, trying to hide, but it was useless. The humans hunted them down, eliminating them with cold precision. Supreme Chancellor Korvax, once the most powerful being in the galaxy, now sat alone in the ruins of the Council chamber. He was the last, the final survivor of a once mighty empire. And as the sky above darkened with the shadow of human warships, he finally understood. They had ignored the warning. They had shown no mercy to humanity. Now, humanity had returned the favor. The Galactic Council had ruled for thousands of years, unchallenged and unquestioned. They had seen empires rise and fall, species evolve and vanish, all under their iron grip. To them, the idea that a primitive race from an unknown world could ever pose a threat was laughable. Humanity had been labeled insignificant, a minor species not even worthy of diplomacy. When humans refused to bow, the Council had given them one chance to surrender. When they refused again, the Council sent a fleet to crush them. That was the mistake that doomed them all. The fleet had never returned. Every warship, every commander, every soldier gone. At first, the Council believed it to be a technical error, some kind of misunderstanding. Then came the message. Broadcasted across every frequency in the known galaxy, it was simple and chilling. You were warned. Now, bow before humanity or be destroyed. Panic spread like wildfire. The Council, once arrogant and untouchable, was now desperate. They tried to form another fleet, larger, stronger, deadlier. But before it could even launch, the humans struck again. This time, they targeted the Council's core worlds. The first attack was on Krithar 7, the homeworld of the reptilian Krithari. An industrial powerhouse, covered in massive cities and protected by an impenetrable defense grid. The Krithari had prepared for war, expecting a long siege. Instead, they watched in horror as the human fleet arrived and shattered their entire defense system in less than an hour. The sky burned as human warships descended like executioners. The Krithari military fought desperately, but it didn't matter. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not conquer. They exterminated. Cities were reduced to ruins. Military bases were wiped off the map before they could even launch counterattacks. Krithari leaders tried to surrender, begging for mercy. None was given. Word spread. One by one, the Council's strongest planets fell. No negotiations. No prisoners. No survivors. Humanity had declared war, and they fought with a terrifying efficiency that no species had ever encountered before. The Council had always believed that war was about strength and numbers. Humans had proven them wrong. The few Council members still alive gathered in a secret chamber, deep beneath the surface of Nethos Prime, their final stronghold. Supreme Chancellor Korvax, once the most powerful leader in the galaxy, now sat hunched over, his claws trembling. He had never imagined this day would come. The council was losing. No, they had already lost. The room was filled with terrified voices. Some begged for surrender. Others, blinded by arrogance, still believed they could find a way to win. But there was no way out. A deep rumble shook the underground chamber. The lights flickered. Then the emergency alarms blared. The humans had arrived. There was no speech, no declaration of victory. Only destruction. The walls cracked, explosions roared above, and within minutes, the once mighty rulers of the galaxy found themselves surrounded by armored human soldiers. Their weapons, sleek and deadly, were raised in perfect unison. Cold, unfeeling eyes stared at the defeated council. Supreme Chancellor Korvax took a trembling step forward, his voice barely a whisper. Mercy, the human commander, standing tall in his black armor, simply stared at him. Then he uttered the final words the council would ever hear: bow before humanity or be destroyed. And as the chamber was consumed by fire, the last rulers of the Galactic Council were erased from existence. The war was over. Humanity had won.